All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome. My name is Brian Bray. I am the general manager for the venues team. Want to welcome you guys to joining us in this webinar, kind of to go over uh, best practices, tips, getting started there in your ClickFX system. We've got our crack team for venues to join us. Each guy on our team will be making a little bit of presentation for you. We do have the comment section up, and you'll be able to ask questions while we're going through our demos so that our guys can take a look at it, and we'll get to those questions as quick as we can as we're doing our demos. We do plan on taking a look at several things. We're going to look at game presentations and setup today. We're going to take a little bit of time talking about testing content and data, making sure that everything's looking good before the game starts. We're going to look at some best practices for getting started and just things you guys should keep in mind as you start your seasons. And we'll end it up with some question and answer time, maybe specific to what you guys are experiencing or questions you may have come to the webinar and you didn't really get answered during our conversation. This specific webinar is mainly tailored toward operators, folks using the setup for maybe the first time. But hopefully everybody here on this call has at least got a chance to take a look at it. Again, the video will be recorded. We should be recording now. And what we'll do is we'll post this in several places. We'll post this on a YouTube page. And we'll put a link to that up when we have that available. We'll also post this on our help page. We currently have help.chiron.com available in there. We have help pages. We have a lot of information for you guys. We'll put that up here in the chat for you. I think Andrew was going to post that for me. And you guys can, at any point in time, go to PDF guides that might help you out and get you to a place where you need to be. Then there's our team, our three guys. Let me introduce them real quick. We've got leading up our support team is Andrew Pearson. Andrew's been with the company for, well, forever. I'll be honest with you, it's probably longer than I've been alive, but the guy's been around a while. I'm teasing you, Andrew. Also on our team, we've got Cole Taylor, who's been with the team for about 18 months now. He's our newest guy, but comes highly skilled. He's been around. You'll pick up on that real quick. And then, of course, we've got Logan O'Neill. Logan's been with the team for about 3 years now. Pretty staple, steady guy on our team. So without further ado, we're going to let the team get started. And I believe that, Andrew, you're starting us off?
I am. Howdy. So we're going to start off today with just kind of a basic, what do you do when you are about to start a show and you've been given a rundown document, you've been given a list of advertisements to play, and you're told to sit down in front of this computer and work ClickFX and run this game. So we're going to kind of approach it from that perspective today and talk about the different activities. So we'll roll through some stuff that I'll talk about, then we'll roll into what Cole will present, and then also to Logan at that point. So we're going to start off first with a simple import of media. So if you're handed a sheet saying, okay, here are the advertisements for today, everything in ClickFX is done with a point and click button interface where you'll have individual media buttons of different types. You'll click on a media button to put it into preview, click on it again to put it into program, and then from there you can go through and see that appear on the screen. So how do we get from a file that was given to me to an actual button that is on the desktop? So on any button, just right click and import. And from here, you can go in and navigate into your image folders, and you can find whatever it is you're looking for. Ribbon files in this case, and we're going to pull in some advertisements that we were given, and I'll hit open on those. And now all those buttons will begin to appear, and then I can go through and play these buttons, just again by point and click. Same thing. So this is our GPU interface. So you can see here we have a number of different boards across the top. Cole, if you can switch over to the output view, we'll show you what the actual GPU output looks like. So you can see here we've got some different stuff playing. If I point and click on my side, I can then pull in a different advertisement to show up at that point. Let's go ahead and switch back. We also have an SDI view. So this is going to be for your broadcast type information. This is going to be clips that you'll play, or intro pieces, one-shots, also takeovers, things like that. So we'll have that all available here. Currently, we're showing a bug on top of a live view for some baseball content that we have playing at the moment. And again, here it's just as simple as just right click and import files. Now, in order to kind of organize this stuff and keep it moving, we're going to go to organizational mode. So that's right click and organizer mode, or Control O if you prefer. And this will let you go through and just kind of drag and drop and organize things how you like to have them show up. So if you have a certain a list or a priority list that you want to modify, let's say I'm just going to plug some things in, put those at the top. We know we're going to play things in this order. We need a McDonald's right there, and we're going to pull in a Google at the end. So now I've got kind of my top 7 here. Each one of our pages has 60 buttons. Those buttons are also organized by page on the left, so we'll have a number of different pages here. People may organize these by period of the game, pre-game, first half, second half. They may organize it by sport if you've got more than one event happening at your venue. We also have banks. We have 6 banks as well, and people will also take these to do different teams if necessary, or different sports as well. Each bank will give you 14 pages, and each page gives you 60 buttons. So we have the ability to contain a lot of different media content that you then have at your fingertips. So organizing this list, I've been given my ad rotation, and now I've got this created. Let's talk now about some of the different kinds of buttons that you can have. So the orange items here are simply what we call still buttons. So that's just an image that's a full screen for whichever output you're looking at. In this case, it's a ring output. And the image needs to be designed to fit into this size. And this is just a straight image. We can also bring in videos. So again, videos will match whatever the size format is. And from here, we can play this and take a look at what the preview for that video is. Those are designated by the blue buttons here. In addition to those, we have what we call graphics. So graphics buttons are also going to be ones, and I'll go ahead and change our view here. You can see, so this graphics button contains a video object. I have another one that is just a straight image. So why do we have different images versus stills? Like what's the point of having these different types of buttons that are out here? So with stills and with videos, it is what it is, right? You can't really control it. You can on a video, you can set an endpoint and an output. You can tell it whether or not to loop, but you don't really have control over any of the content. The graphics are where we can control content itself. So if you want to have something where the video needs to be just a piece of the overall puzzle instead of the majority of it, or if you want to include things like crawls or text information, things like that, then you can do that with a graphic and have those available to you. All right. So how do we make this easy for the user to work through on the game, right? So I can obviously order my buttons across the top like I've done with organizer mode, or I can go in and create playlists. So a playlist, and I have one here, is simply a fire and forget. And it'll go through and play content, play buttons that we have generated in order to have this content play in the order that we want it to. This is great for ad rotations where I'm not really worried about when these are played. They just need to be played in order, and they need to play for a certain amount of time. So I can just set this up, fire off my playlist, and know that those rotations are going to go through. How do we create those playlists, right? We want this to be as easy as possible. That's kind of one of our mantras here with ClickFX, is make things easy. So in order to create a new playlist, all I have to do is right-click and go to Create Playlist. And from here, I can now drag content from my buttons and create these. And I know that needs to go there. And we said that was that order. And so now I have my buttons created up here at the top. Yes. I can then just drag and drop to reorder these. And it's that easy just to set a time. Now for images, we need to set a duration for how long those play. That's as simple as just opening up and saying, okay, I'm going to apply this. I want all my images to be 10 seconds. So that takes care of those. Videos will play whatever their video duration is. I can set this to a continuous, so it just rolls through as it plays, or I can set it to single play, where I will control myself when the item goes to the next piece, but it'll be there, be queued up and ready for me to go. I'm going to set this on as an infinite playlist. We'll save that and close it. And that's it. Now I'm ready to play that playlist, and it's going to go through and follow that order that I put up there. This in particular is a video playlist. It handles stills and videos. We also have graphics playlists that we can run, and those can include full screen graphics like we're doing here. Or they can also include where you might just want to rotate a list of bugs. Maybe you have one bug that has McDonald's as a sponsor and one that has Home Depot, and you want those to rotate through. An easy way to do that is just create a couple of different bugs and put them in a playlist and just have them rotate through and handle the ad rotation that way. That's just one of many ways that we can do things like an ad rotation, but it's a simple example for using our playlist here. All right, so once you have your buttons inputted and you imported and you have set up the order that you want, best practice is always just to go through and play all of your buttons. You know, if it's a playlist, I'm going to go through and simply play each button. All right, McDonald's, go through, simply play each button, play each remote, play each hotkey, whatever it is that you need to do in order to verify that all of your content is ready to go. In this case, I'm going to go through and we're going to stop a bunch of stuff here. I'm just going to close everything out. And I want to go through and make sure that when I'm ready, that I can fire up all of my content. So for the main, I know I want to show the score line. So I'm going to right click on that and we're going to assign this to a hotkey. So I'm just going to call this M for main. So now whenever I need to have main come up, I'll just hit M on the keyboard and there we go. And it fires up and appears. So I also need to have my ring and my line score also appear those. So I'm going to right click and go to hotkey again. And in this case, I'm going to add M and I'll say, yes, I want to share this for that button. And then we do the same thing for our line score, M and share. And now when I hit M, it's automatically going to fire up all of those pieces for my board. So I know I'm up and ready to go. So hotkeys are a really useful way of simply controlling one machine where you want to have something that is a quick and easy, right? So if I've got a home run, maybe I'll set up H as a hotkey that will then fire up my my home run graphic. Or if I've got a birthdays and groups content, then I'll assign this. We'll set it as a B, so that when the director calls for birthday messages, all I have to do is hit B on the keyboard, and then we are ready to go. All right, another thing that you might do for your game setup is going to be on the SDI side specifically, is to record some content that maybe some pre-game folks are recording for you or setting up some talent. So in order to do that, we're going to go ahead and just kind of lock down our SDI. This is all pre-game, remember. So we'll have that there. I'm going to right click this time and go to record video. And here I have that baseball content coming in, and all I have to do is we'll give this a name. We'll just call this Rec 1, and I'll hit record. And now I'll be recording content coming in on this player. If there's audio, then I'll see audio appearing here. And then I can record what I want. Okay, I'll stop that. We've got it saved. This is going to be Rec 01. All right, and then we will close that. Nope, I just saved it. Sorry, I didn't save it correctly. Let me do that again. Get about 5 seconds here just for this example. There you go. I had to create the button. All right. So now I've got my content ready for the director to play. As soon as they call that, that content is available for me. Then we can switch back to our regular show. We know that we need to hit M for our main content. So we go back to GPU. We've got all our content playing. On this page, you can see that I have multiple video boards. So main, line score, and ring, and they all are color-coded. So you can see that all of my buttons that I'll be playing, especially on the sponsor ring, I've got some that are color-coded, and I can see all those pretty quickly and easily. On this page, you can also have buttons from other players. So this particular button in the corner is an SDI button. So we'll go ahead and add that to our main as well and share that. And now when I hit my M, it's going to play that SDI one, and that's going to appear over here on the SDI channel as our bug that's up here in the corner. All right, so we've imported content. We've organized that content how we like. We may have created some playlists. We've checked all of our media content at that point, played everything, tried all of the remotes. We're going to talk about those in a minute, that we've tried all of our hotkeys, that we're comfortable with it, where everything is. The other piece is you may need to talk about and how you're going to deal with your starting lineup information, right? So we've talked about ads and ad rotations, but again, we're also going to have a page that's just for headshots. So again, I'll import any headshots that I may have and set those up. I can then create those as a playlist, or if I want to, I can just have them ordered. And again, I'll just make sure that as we go through and play these, that each one of these appears how I want it. Maybe I need to make a note that I need to stop the line score so I can see that at the bottom and see the whole screen. And then when I'm ready, I can go back and hit M, and it'll fire that back up and all my other content as well. So now I can go back to like my in-game look at this point, which is just going to be, whatever we decide is our main output. All right. Okay. Let's see. I think we're ready at this point to flip over to Cole and let him talk about some of the setup of some more advanced ways of running the software other than just the basics.
Sweet deal. Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, so jumping into it a little bit, obviously Andrew just walked us through sort of from the, I've come into the building for today's show. I'm going to do a bit of setup, introducing you to how to create different types of buttons, the different types of content that we can import and play around with and organize to sort of run our show. What I'm going to be talking about is how ClickFX has sort of evolved into being ClickFX Prime, integrating the Prime CG backend and Prime engine and the Prime Designer, which is Chiron's flagship CG that's used sort of all over the world for different broadcasts and in-venue applications. Really, really versatile product. So how are we going to do that? How's it going to make our lives easier as an operator? Andrew's already went over our different boards here. Switch over to our output view. You can see we have 3 different GIPs, so game in progress graphics. Obviously, this is something that an operator is going to do when they come in. They're going to go and set their matchup for the day. And depending on how big your show is, how big your stadium is, you might have 6, 7 of these sort of littered around the stadium where you're showing different elements of the game, different statistics, where you're going to show the name of the team, maybe some of the team's colors, the logos, all of that good stuff. Traditionally, an operator would go into each one of those graphics individually. So I would go here to my in-game tab. I'd find all these different graphics. I'd go right-click. I might even go in and save a new graphic after I've made my adjustments to what the name of the team is or the logo or the colors are. With Prime CG, we introduced this concept of control panels. So scene control panels here under your view tab. Pop that open, and if you're a Prime CG user, this stuff looks super familiar. ClickFX, obviously, it's something new here. So each one of these Prime control panels is totally user definable. So what does that mean? If I'm creating a graphic, I can create a Prime control panel that, from sort of the operator's perspective, I can interact with it. I can go ahead and change my lineup. I can create buttons that are going to fire timers. In this case, super quick example, set my lineup. So I have a visit team. I have a home team. I'm going to go ahead and say we are the Angels and we are the New York Yankees. Big matchup. You can see here already, even within my Prime control panel, my scoring tab just below, or my scoring section, it's already changed those names. I'm going to go ahead and flip back to my output view. You can see now we have the logos that have changed. We have the colors in the background that have changed as well. The text objects that are here in my GIP graphics that are my line score. If I go over to my SDI channel, my little score bug up at the top is already reflecting those items as well. And just to show you one more time sort of how quickly this happens, I'm going to go to open. You can notice here as well, the background is going to change as well. So it goes to a green color. Maybe something like Houston's a bit more dramatic. Oh, Houston's not in there. Sorry. Baltimore. Yeah, you can kind of get the idea quickly how from one place as an operator, I'm going in, typing in a try code for a team. I could even make this a bit of like a drop down list if I wanted to. A bunch of different ways to do it. And just like that, I've affected all the graphics around my stadium. Now I can move on to something else that might be, a more important issue or utilize my skill set in a different way. Another thing this means as well, we can reskin graphics really, really quickly and easily. So I have this this little sort of ticker, up and down ticker here. And you see it's the word look beside it. So that's going to be my sort of like look for the game. You might think of this as like a like an inner city night or a military night, something like that. I just have it affecting the graphics playout boards here. You can see that blue color is going to change. Now it's a gray, and now it's a green. Again, everything that you can set up sort of in the background, and we'll get into depths a little bit further with this in a future session, but it's all based on global parameters that can be set and shared in between different scenes at like a project level, which is really, really cool thing that Prime CG, the Prime engine allows us to do. Moving on a little bit in regards to, I'm a game day operator, and I'm going to go through sort of some of the things that I do as my day's progressing. After I've loaded in my content, done all my work of setting my lineup, setting my teams. Obviously, like Andrew mentioned, you're going to go in and you're going to start testing out your content, working with a producer probably to go through each individual element, making sure things are playing out properly. And honestly, that's a really nice thing about these Prime control panels. It gives you a bit more time back, so you can go through those things a little bit quicker, right? As a, high-end production level, kind of overseeing everything, this might mean a little bit more or a little bit shorter of a call time for your operators. I know, operators probably wouldn't want to hear that, but at the end of the day, cost savings within production are a big thing for sure.
Cole, let me jump in real quick. One thing that we didn't mention to begin with is, we have different types of users for Click Effects. We've got the game day operator we've been talking about, who comes in, everything is prepared for them, the buttons are mostly present, all of the complex stuff is set up. We have a user who we designate, or more than one user designated as the designer user. So this would be the person that's going to do the more complicated imports, the graphics creation. They'll probably be using the Prime Designer tool to actually generate and then import the more advanced graphics into Click Effects. And so that then is your on-staff person who does all of this creation in order to prepare the user. The game day operator, we want to keep this as slick as possible for them, right? Here are some last-minute advertisements you got to put in, set up the hotkeys the way you want, set up the page the way you want, then you're off and running, after you've tested everything.
Absolutely. And yeah, you're totally hit the nail on the head. In regards to having these different operators, it's all about trying to streamline the process for people as they come in and do this job, right? Depending on what sort of aspect, whether you're the person who's loading content, building the show and operating, or let's say it's more of like a collegiate level sort of thing where you might have somebody who's doing the overall sort of building of content, and then maybe a student comes in and runs it. We want stuff as foolproof and as easy to use as possible. Another great thing where those control panels come into play. Now, if I am a student, I'm coming in, I might not have the in-depth knowledge that a designer might have in regards to going into the graphics themselves and actually making those changes, saving it properly, making sure it plays out okay. There's a lot of things that you can, we try to lift a lot of the complexity out into control panels where we can, because especially, if anybody who's dealt with character generators and data and linking, different XML and JSON serial data, there's things that can get messed up pretty quickly with a couple clicks if you don't necessarily know where you're going with things or what you're doing. So in this way, we can lift some of that editing out to control panels, which is really, really cool. Kind of moving on a little bit in regards to some of the other things that somebody might be doing. I know Andrew already went into this birthday graphic down below, but that's a big thing. And it might not just be a birthday, but it might be something like a group's welcome to the stadium for today's game or something like that. Again, another item that, a stadium and a production can monetize and obviously benefit them. So we make it super duper easy. We have this tool called Messages. It's just over here on the left-hand side of the Click Effects graphic editor. And again, two kind of different things currently as it sits within the current builds of Click Effects. We have the Prime CG editor, which is definitely a more in-depth, similar to an After Effects or a Photoshop in regards to the layout, super high capabilities. And then we have the Click Effects editor here, which is super easy to work with. Obviously, it's been around for a long time, been within the software, and has a lot of really kind of like quick tools that that anybody can kind of use to be able to make kind of cool interactive graphics. So in this case, for a birthday message, something as easy as that, I've created a text object here, and it's tied to a message. And essentially, I just have a notepad, a quick text document. And this is something that somebody could come in at the beginning of the day. It could be, the graphic kind of lives as it is on a game-by-game basis. And then I get as an operator, I get my list of birthdays at the ballpark. I go ahead and input it into this text document. And essentially all this is one line of text, a space to indicate that's where we're going to transition from one text object to another, and then kind of continuously going down. If I had a group of names that I wanted to show at the same time, I could easily just go ahead and group that up. But anytime there's a space, it's going to assume that's going to be the transition point. Exit out of that, I'll save it. And then over here in my message sort of pop-out window here, I can determine if I want to loop the messages once it gets to the last object. I can select which message I want to start on. So in this case, I'll start on number 1. The rotate interval, so how many seconds do I want that message to stay up on screen? And as easy as that, I can go ahead and close this guy out. When I go to play it out here, you'll see it pop up on the main output. And after a number of seconds here, we're going to see it rotate. There we go. So now it's going to the 2 names that I sort of brought together. And again, this will just continue to go along that list. Super easy thing to build and manipulate on a game-by-game basis as that operator sort of starts going through their show. Another really cool thing that it just reminded me about, something else that I built into a prime control panel. Big thing in baseball nowadays, obviously over the last couple of years, the time of the game has become a really, really important thing. So how long does a game actually happen, especially in the major leagues, or how long does it take to play a game? They've been trying to shorten it down. People's attention spans are shorter and shorter. So pitch clocks, huge thing. What I've built here, and again, this could be implied in any way. I'm just zooming in on this so we can get a bit of a better view. We have a GIP here that's going to live on a ribbon. So this is sort of on one of our graphics ribbons here. And, it's showing the score, how many runs each team has, give it a little bit of context, and then it has a clock in the middle. If I pop open my scene control panels again, I'm going to go here to view this graphic. And this graphic has a timer control panel that I've built. Like I said before, I built it just for this graphic. So anytime I have this graphic up, this control panel is going to be available to me. And from here, I can go ahead and I created a couple different clocks that are going to end up taking over this one here. Let's say there's a batter change. There's 30 seconds for that next batter to get up to bat. I now have, so you can see here on the output, new batter coming up. I've got 23 seconds left until that pitcher is going to end up throwing their first throw. Again, just making the graphics a little bit more interactive to be able to sort of jump in and as an operator, work through the show and make it a little bit more interesting to the viewer. Again, all of these items, super customizable. You could tie this to a data source. And then, as that data source sees a value in there, it's going to switch and show this clock. Again, as that clock ran out, now it goes back to just showing the time of day. But again, super flexible way of interacting with your graphics. That's control panels there. While I'm here, I might as well show you one more cool control panel. This is a matching game. So again, inside of a stadium, one of our really big jobs is to keep the crowd into it, keep the crowd excited. And obviously when the game's not going on, let's say it's changing of innings, 7th inning stretch comes along, something like that. We want to create different graphics or create different games that are engaging to the fans, right? So they're not just sitting there going on their phones, talking to amongst themselves. So what we have here is a Whataburger sponsored matching game with a prime control panel that's baked right into it. So this is one here that they're all just individual videos that are actually being played out at the time of me clicking a button. So I'm going to click the show all. the 8 individual little videos there are going to play and stop as the boards have opened them up. I'm going to go reset all, and it's going to play them in reverse and flip them all back. So again, looking at these graphics, and the control panels, they might seem a little complicated, but the work that's going on in the background, it's very straightforward. And again, once you see sort of the makeup of how to actually do these, things start clicking, and then your creativity can kind of lead you in a bunch of different directions. Again, fun stuff like this. This is making it so your operator can actually interact with the fan and with the game that's kind of going on. And it's not so pre-baked or pre-packaged that they might have been in the past of, maybe a video that just sort of plays and it's a shuffling video where, you play and stop it, and then somebody guesses what cup the ball is under and stuff like that. You can make them a little bit more interactive for sure. All right, so I know that was probably a lot to take in. In regards to other things that an operator might be doing outside of control panels on a game day, we've ingested all this content. We've gone through and made sure content's playing out correctly. Something else that's huge within these stadiums, and especially in baseball, is statistics, obviously. So you have a lot of different data fields and stats that you need to be able to visualize. It's obviously a big stress when we can't do that, or something goes wrong within that chain or that signal flow. So what we do, you can ingest data in a bunch of different ways. One of the most common is from a game controller, so like an OES, Daktronics game controller that would be sending serial data most commonly. So I have another scoreboard here. I'll throw that guy up. You can see it's just changed color there just to make it a little bit more obvious. How we ingest that is up in our remote section here. Again, this would be defined depending on what building that you're in regards to what scoring controller you're using. But the really nice thing that we like to suggest our operators go through on a game-to-game basis before the show's starting, because that's the thing. You might, ideally you see all this data kind of flow through your graphics before the show starts, but there are times that, people are busy. It's a big stadium, and maybe the operations crew isn't working kind of on the same schedule that you are, or the games crew. We give an option to be able to go in and essentially test the data linking. So this is a way that we visualize our data parsing within like our COM port. So for serial data, and you can see here, this is set to an OES baseball preset, where you can see all of the different statistics that would be inputted onto that scoring controller. And then there's a small sort of section over here for value. So just to be able to test stuff like super quickly and validate that I've done my job as an operator and my graphics are actually linked to where that data is going to be entering my system. I can go in and, let's say here under the out section, I'm just going to go ahead and say there's 2 outs. Now, when I go and I'm just going to check out the output of my system here, you can see this one blue or purple graphic that is linked to that data shows 2 outs. Again, just another thing as being an operator, another thing to add to the checklist of the day to be able to, really do your job and make sure you're ready to go come game time. The other form of data, obviously, that a lot of places have would be sort of like the more advanced data, again, like lineups and historic statistics, that sort of thing. And likely it's coming in as some sort of XML formatted data. So we pop over here to our little data view, data settings window. You can also get to it through settings, data settings, and we're just going to go to XML sources. We have a couple different setup here. But again, this is where, just like with the serial data, how we can visualize it for XML, this is how we're going to visualize it. I can pop over here. Here are a bunch of different views that I have, or we have set up in regards to different sort of sporting data that would come in. I can go down to this one here, Vandy XML, and I can quickly just go view XML. And if there was nothing coming in or nothing in that file, this would totally be blank. And again, just a super quick way of me, being able to validate, okay, I do see data. Very good. And then from there, I can go if I wanted to, and I can manipulate that and see it change within my graphics. So again, just as an operator, that's sort of giving you the peace of mind, giving your producers and your production team the peace of mind that, okay, when the game starts and data starts flowing, at least sort of my basis is covered. And I mean, from an engineering perspective, a really valuable tool in regards to troubleshooting as well. Just being able to see that data coming in or not coming in gives me an idea of, you know, where within the signal flow or the especially with IP based sources, being able to validate, okay, it is actually hitting this is huge for sure.
All right, Cole, I'm going to jump in here and talk about the next piece of the simplification that we like to maintain within ClickFX. We have a function called a remote, and that is a new media button I haven't talked about yet. Here on the media page, you can see these blue ones are listed here. And a remote gives us a couple of different functionalities beyond just doing one thing or clicking on one button. So the basic remote in this case, you can use to fire a button. So just like I did a hotkey, I can set up a remote that plays birthdays. So by doing that, I'll just go through create remote control. This is going to be a birthday. It'll be ClickFX network. Save that, and now I can go to the remote menu and the ClickFX network. Within the network here, if you have more than one ClickFX system, let's say you have an SDI system and a GPU output system, each of those systems will appear in this list, and any page where a remote is created will also appear in this list for me to go find. So this is the in-game page. I can open this up. I see birthday. I'm simply going to drag and drop this into the birthday item, and now I can close that. So now when I want to play birthday, I can just click on it once and it plays the graphic for me. Now, in this case, is that really useful in this one page? Not so much. It's right there in front of me. However, I can go in and into organizer mode, and I can just say I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to go over to SDI1, and I'm going to paste it in over here. So now I've got my birthday remote, and I can play that from wherever I am to that remote that happens. So if I'm on a different machine, then I can have a remote here that will play content on the other machine. So this is great for doing takeovers. There are also ways to do this to manage playlists across multiple outputs, right? So we talked earlier about playlists on the GPU side, and we have these sponsor playlists that are running, but that's just for one board. That's just for the ring board. If I want to run advertisements across multiple boards, then what I can do is come in and set up what we call an is remote playlist. So the playlist here, I'm going to have playlist items from one player only, right? So in this case, we're just playing items from the ring board. But I also want to play other graphics for the line score board and also for the main board. But if I try to put those into my playlist, it's going to bark at me because I can only have one video per channel in a playlist at a time. So I can't play a playlist for multiple things at once. In order to make sure that we are maintaining the consistency of the playlist, that we're not going to get into like a black space for one board while another board plays. So we have this is remote playlist, and there is a checkbox here for that where I just say is remote, and now I'll save that and close. And now I'm going to go back to my remote menu, and then I'll find my sponsor ring page. And now instead of a regular remote that just has one option, I'm going to have an option that has all of my functions for all of my playlist items. So this is my playlist order based on this sponsor rotation playlist that I've created. I can now say, okay, this first one, I'm going to add one from line score and one from main. And then on the second one, I'll add one from line score and one from main. And I'll just follow down the list. And for every item in the playlist that I want to match multiple boards, I just simply drag and drop those in order to manage that. So when I close this and we play our sponsor playlist, then it'll now play graphics across all three of those boards and not just one at a time. All right. Another item we can use remotes for is going to be functions within the software that aren't necessarily related to media buttons directly. So we have some buttons here on the in-game page. So on the remotes here, we've got this GIF on, GIF off. So if we turn off a couple of these, I believe it's, let's see if we can figure out which one it's set to run. All right, perfect. So That's GIP on. If I want to turn that off again, I'll just hit GIP off, and now go through and remove those items that I don't want to be in the way. So this is a good way where I could combine the action of, I'm going to turn this graphic off and I'm going to play something else, right? So if I have this on, now I need to go back to my standard view. So I'll hit GIP on, and now everything pops back into my normal view at this point. So that's kind of another functionality. We also have a way to just do game look here. We've got multiple graphics that would play at once. This is going to start a sponsor loop, and it also plays a bunch of graphics for us. This is just to kind of get back to our main view at this case. And then we have some other functionality as well. So if I look at these remotes, again, these are just media remotes, but when we look at the functionality, we can go back to our ClickFX network. We've got our machine here. This time we're on the in-game page, and we've got our, let's see, in-game, excuse me. Where are we looking here?
Just one below it.
Right
there,
below it. It's right in front of my face, literally right there. Okay, so here we're using what we call a workflow, which specifically allows me to stop a graphic, which is important because if you look at the control panel page, I've got buttons within here that I can control individual boards, but I've also got the stop all button. I don't want to use that because that's going to close out everything, right? And that's not necessarily what I want to do. So let's go back to game look again and fire that in. And now I just want to turn off the GIP items. So if I've got something else playing at this time, let's say I've got birthdays going and I want to turn off just the GIPs, then I can program this to remove everything but what I have in program at the moment that's outside of this particular workflow. The GIP on in this case is just like I showed you, multiple buttons being called at the same time. And then we also have a number of functions in here that are commands. So in this case, we have a command that's going to toggle our live input. So we do have the ability here on the SDI side to show live content. Let's take out the graphic here, and we'll verify that we are playing content on what is our output board, which is SDI2. Now, if we toggle this on, so I'm now manually toggling this live on and off. But I can also do that with my remote if I'm on another channel. So I'm not looking at the SDI right now, but I can go through and toggle live. So when I do that, it's going to change my live setting. So the types of commands we have a number of them. We have a number of functions you can do, and these are all by output. So if I want to clear graphics on a particular channel, I can toggle live audio. I can do information with looping or turning off and on of video and graphics. So these commands allow me to kind of do things like, hey, I want to have a stop all media because I'm going to go to black right before my show because I want to play an intro video. So I'm going to set up a command that does everything across all players and even potentially across all machines. Hit one button, everything stops, and now we are going to black, and now we're ready to hit the next button, which then fires off the video content and have everything sync to play on that next remote that's available there. The other piece that we have for remotes is we have the ability to control external devices. So I may have a control that's hooked up to a lighting system or a pyro system in some cases, or I might just want to change the SDI routing on a particular router. So I'm going to change my main board view from a view that has the, if we get rid of birthdays and go back to our game look, instead of the view that has the line score listed along with some other information, maybe we just have something where we're using a full screen SDI output. So I'm going to have the SDI router change. I can put that on a remote to where I can click a button here. It changes the routing and also then fires the content, plays the video, takes out the content we don't want, and then also then have one that reverses right back. So again, as part of this user scenario, they won't necessarily be needing to go through and modify all of these remotes that are created. There is some case a need for, hey, I need to reorder this playlist because they're changing the order for me. So I'm going to go and edit the playlist, and I need to reorganize this. Okay, Coors Light is coming before Coca-Cola, so I'm going to move that up. We're going to put this Coca-Cola in front. So now we have this one in front of ADP. One thing that's really nice is if I go back to our remote view now and I look at that, that's automatically been updated into my remote. So if I go back to sponsor ring, and now we look at our rotation, right now I've got, as soon as I save, let's see, we'll go and save this and close, and we'll do a refresh of our remotes. And now when we go to look at the sponsor ring, sponsor rotation. Now I've got Coca-Cola first and ADP a second rather than the other way around. I don't have to reassign my buttons. They're all still reassigned the way they were because they follow the button they're assigned to. One thing I may need to do is if I had to import a brand new forward power as the end user, I may need to know how to go in and say, okay, this is forward power. I need to add, one from one item and one from the other in order to match everything up. It's going to go to my organizer mode, and then I can drag and drop those in, and now I've got forward power set up, and I can go from there. So after doing all this setup, going back to this message of, hey, let's run through everything, even before pregame. Let's have everybody run through all of their buttons so that when we get to the pregame, the director's ready to go through the rundown and do our testing ahead of time and do our pre-show, then we're all fired up and ready to run. The last piece I'll talk about before I turn it over to Logan is one other item we have, which is the scheduler. And this is a really nice feature that we have where you can go in and add an item to the scheduler list. So let's say I want to have my sponsor rotation start playing at 6 p.m. Then I can say, give me a new, I'm going to plug in my sponsor rotation. I'm going to set this to run at 6 p.m. All right, set that. And now I can see, let's go ahead and enable the scheduler. And now I know that when it comes up to 6 p.m. in 5 hours from now, it'll start playing this playlist. So this is really nice for when doors open and you want to have something playing, but maybe that person's getting their media meal. Just have them set up this playlist with a specific time, and then whether they're sitting there or not, it'll start playing the playlist or whatever item you plug in there and have that be automated.
And that's super duper handy, especially for days that you might not have like a technical person or an operator on site as well. Like let's say you have a corporate event that's, taking over the bowl or the field. It's something you can set up beforehand to have a rotation of sponsorships that go on your ribbon. And, let's say it's like Chick-fil-A that's renting out the stadium for, an event or something like that. You can have Chick-fil-A sponsorship ads going and everything's going to pop up, as scheduled, like Andrew went over there. Yeah, right. Really, really useful tool. I think one more thing, just in regards to, the user interface and being able to keep things organized. Another thing that we sort of suggest to customers and operators is the use here of the page arranger. So again, like Andrew said, you can move things around really, really easily by copying and pasting, going in organizer mode by either going Control O or right clicking and organizer mode. And, this is the way that obviously you'd go ahead and shuffle all your buttons around and get your in-game, pages ready to go. The other thing, just to kind of advance it one more layer, you can see here we have arrange pages, and this is defined by all the different players that your box has or your system has. So here we have 2 SDI players and 1 GPU player. So right now I'm on the GPU player. I'll go and say arrange pages. You can see this sort of very familiar. Obviously, it pops up all of the different banks that I have across the top here, and then all of the different pages that are within it. And just as easy as clicking and sort of moving things around, as well as clicking and dragging things over to the archive, which again, is just a way of moving things into sort of a hidden spot. Excuse me. Again, could be useful just to keep yourself organized, or you could put stuff from a previous season that it's not currently in your show, but you want to kind of keep it on the system just in case a director, producer says, hey, it'd be great to bring back that element from last year. That would be a great thing. At least you can throw that into your archive. You can have a whole page of them. You could have a ton of them there to be able to sort of recall whenever you might need to. So just another little tidbit in regards to how to stay organized within the system. And then Andrew, I don't know, did you have anything else to add in there, or do you think we're ready to throw it over to Logan?
I think we're ready to throw it over to Logan at this point to talk about a couple of our other different functions and features we've got.
Yeah, so you mean to start with the backdraft, or are we going to just go through the...
Yes, let me reshare so we can take a look at the backdraft system. Let's see. Where is my share screen? Where's my share screen?
I can go over the best practices doc
Yeah.
first if you want.
Go ahead and do that while I figure this
Yeah.
out real quick.
So I just wanted to outline our best practices documentation. We also have it over at help. I think it's help.chiron.com. Yes, it's an FAQ section. Essentially, this is a document that kind of entails what you should do in the event of incidents. So we kind of define incidents as like software freezes, software hangs, crashing, that sort of thing. It'll go over just general tips on what you should do in the event of that, sort of what to look out for too, because there are differences between the three, and it's the way we would troubleshoot them is different depending on what happened. All right, Andrew's got we got the backdraft up. 1 second. Okay, yeah. So this is our backdraft software. It's an active recovery unit. Software is basically always running on your machine or a separate machine than the main machine. Essentially, this is just pulling data constantly from each machine. So this machine right now is running off, I think it's backing up 2 machines. You have GPU 1 and 2. Basically, as you can see here, this thing is just constantly pulling data. And if in an event of an incident on your main machine that you would need to fail over is what we call it, you would click the little button to the right there, that little switch. This would stop the data import, and then it would slowly boot up the Chiron software. And once that happens, it's like, what, 30 seconds, 40 seconds?
It's supposed to be 30 to 45 seconds.
Yeah, it'll boot straight into the ClickFX Prime system that you know. It'll be the exact same. It'll be basically a carbon copy of your main system. Or in this instance, it'll be a carbon copy of GPU 1, and the bottom would be a carbon copy of GPU 2. And you'd be able to output things from there. This also, that we want to mention, it can do things. We can activate GPU matrices. There were 2 other things I had on the list. KVMs, routing commands to routers. We do quite a few things in the automation field here. Yeah, that's that. Yeah, that's pretty much all I had for the backdraft. Let's see.
One other thing I'll add in real quick, Logan, is
Yep.
The backdraft will also track for your other systems a number of different monitors. So you'll notice that we did get a monitor pop up there with an error message, and it was simply that it was having trouble reading one of the sensors. And as soon as it was able to fix that, it went back into our green state. And so we can have these available to fire up, and they will show, you'll see this light maybe goes red sometimes. And that's when it's telling you that there is an issue that you should look at on the main machine. As it goes through its cycle, then if that issue goes away, then it'll go back to green at that point. This is also available for us to do if we have to do maintenance or repair on a system. I can come into this machine and I can say, we're going to go through and freeze this the way it is. And now I can use this backdraft as GPU 2 indefinitely while we send the real GPU 2 for work or we do repair on it. And this machine can act as that one. Then when that machine comes back, we'll simply go back and do a unfreeze, and then it'll go back and start tracking the main system as it's designed in order to kind of pick up where it left off. The other cool feature we have is we have a restore function where we can actually send, like if you've done a lot of work while you've been on the backdraft machine and you don't want to lose that. I've created a lot of graphics, I've imported a lot of content. The restore option allows us to copy that information back to the primary machine when it's up and running in order to save all those changes that you made. So this is all real time. As you can see, every time a file gets changed, the backup machine scans, sees that change, copies it. And so it's a great feature. This product has been, I think, probably our best and most stable product ever since I've worked for ClickFX. It does a great job of managing this data and being able to automate the switchover where possible. It makes this a lot easier and really useful for users out there.
And to expand on it a little bit more as well, when we talk about redundancy, in this case, like Logan said, we have 2 separate GPU output machines. So the odd shaped boards, kind of how we were showing in the other support box there in the presentation. It's essentially backing up both of them, and then I can choose, okay, this one's gone down, I'm going to go ahead and trigger this. Obviously, that's something that we don't want to do on a regular basis, but in the case of a failure, it's right there for us. And the nice thing, like Logan was saying, you can tie in all of these network remotes and commands to activate the different downstream devices like a GPU matrix, or even, you know, like an SDI router or KVMs as well, to immediately switch everything over. So again, at one sort of button click, now you've gone from using one machine to using the complete backup of the other. And when we talk about click effects as well, it's kind of take a bit of a step back. We have three different flavors of the actual boxes when we talk about outputting. Yeah, sorry, Andrew, I guess you're sharing now. You're switching back over there. So we have in what he's showing right now, we have the GPU channels. So that's obviously going to, you know, our oddly shaped fascia boards. And then we have the two SDI channels that are 16:9. So this is what we call an events box, where in the same box, we're doing GPU outputs and SDI outputs. But we also have, you know, separated those boxes out in the traditional sense of you can have just GPU outputted boxes and you can have just SDI outputted boxes. The really cool thing that I think about the Backdraft product as well, if you wanted to, let's say, you know, we're trying to sort of like have a similar sort of one-to-many redundancy. You could have an SDI box and a GPU box, and then you could have an events box as your backdraft where it's backing up both. And in the case that one were to go down, you're covered. In the case that the other one were to go down, again, you're covered, even though they're in different output mediums. Super duper cool feature in regards to kind of bringing everything together and creating that redundancy that will save you in the situations that everyone hopes that we don't get into, for sure. So, sorry, Logan, I'll let you.
No,
take
that's
it
cool.
back.
Yeah, piggybacking off of the backdraft. So data recovery. We also let's show you this real quick. So system uptime. So rebooting is pretty important within Click Effects. So another kind of line of defense we have here on making sure that we have our data backed up is rebooting. So when we initiate a system, if we were to restart this system right now, we would create a carbon copy or like a sort of still image of everything that's on the machine currently. So if you had the machine up for a couple of days and you forgot to reboot it, or you forgot to restart the software, the backup that we would have in our system, which I can show you, we could go here. So it'd be better to show in the settings folder here. Bit off script here, but I think this is pretty interesting. So we are in C. So we have these backups here. So these are basically backups from every date that we've restarted the software. So if you were to lose some data from a couple days ago, we could reload that back into the software as long as we keep rebooting the machine. So that's pretty important.
Yeah, it's every time you close the application, it creates that snapshot.
Yeah.
So we definitely recommend that, like at the beginning of your game day, do a reboot on the machines. Once you've made all of your preparations, but before you get to the actual pregame, go run through with your director, that you restart the application. And at that restart, it will then capture and have all of those settings not frozen in time, but it'll get a capture at that point. So it's very important that you do restart the software, because that's when that backup gets created. So if you were to go for 30 days without restarting the software, people have done that before, and then there's been issues, and yeah, we can't do a whole lot about it. Now, if they have a backdraft, then we can go to backdraft and we can get the information from there. But having that application restart is super, super important.
Adding a quick little side note to that as well, because obviously, the creative people, creatures of habit in Photoshop or After Effects, some sort of design software, like I'm constantly Control S-ing. Everyone's been in the situation where something crashes and they lost the progress that they had made over the day, or hopefully it's not that long, but we can also go File, User, and Backup. So that's our Control S if you're not exiting out of the software as well. That'll create a same idea. It'll create the backup. But again, like Andrew said and Logan said, before actually playing a game, definitely a good idea to give the software a restart, or if you can, the system a restart, clears all the caches out, make sure you're starting on the right foot in regards to having a fresh machine to play out throughout the game.
Yeah, so moving on from just the backing up and stuff like that, we've got our play. I wanted to mention the play duration tracking and the play log editor. So if we go into here, the first thing I want to mention is we need to go to player settings. So the play log, so I can just give a brief explanation of what these are. So if you want to track your advertisements, so how long an ad's played during a game, we have play duration tracking, and then the play log admin would be the kind of the final avenue of exporting that data into a readable format for your sponsors. So in order to get that working, you can enable it a per player basis. So for in this instance, we only really care about tracking the ad times on our rings. So we'll just need to go into the rings player settings within the system settings on the top, go to general, and then we just need to ensure that play logging is enabled. Once that's enabled, we're able to go here into play log settings, and then we can go into options. And this is a list of everything currently playing. And it'll show you on the right here. This is where it's playing at on the output, and this is the title of the object that's playing, and this is the time that's playing. We can swap over to our sponsors. So we've had these kind of just built earlier today. You can assign these to different buttons. You can set the target durations. So you can, if you wanted to track Coca-Cola for 5 minutes, that we have that set in there for 5 minutes. We can go back to the clips, and then this will show you pretty much everything that's playing right now. So this is the Coke. We can change duration. So we'll put like 350 seconds, and this will update to 5 minutes and 50 seconds. So once we get that, then we can close these out, and we'll play this real quick. So once this is playing, it's currently being tracked. And you're able to leave that up while we play, so you can track in game while you're watching this. And let's move these over real quick. So I have 4 sponsors that we wanted to track. I think we've all been kind of playing these repeatedly. So once they get just a little bit of play time on them, they'll show up in the list. And then after this, if you wanted to check out the play log admin, you would go into this program, open this up. This shows you the list of like everything. So it'll be every board, all players. So we want to sort it just by the ring. So we'd select player name, channel ring, and then we'd pull this over, and then we'd apply the filter. Now this is only showing the ring filter and what played on it. We are able to generate reports in XML, PDF, or CSV. So it's a bit easier to check it out in PDF right now. So we can generate the report, put a custom name on it. And this will generate the report. So this has basically a list of everything that we played out during your show. And you can provide this to your sponsors so they can get an accurate description of how long you've been playing their stuff. So
Logan, that's the individual view. If you can pop the report type over to the cumulative view, the top drop down there.
Yeah, we can do cumulative as well.
Yep. Cumulative is a little bit different format. It's simply by button, how much time that button has been in there. So this is also another way of reporting that. If it doesn't matter during the game when the button is played, you just need to have a minute and a half played, then cumulative is really easy because you can just see there's Coca-Cola BCE, minute 46, good to go. If you need to have that time matched up with a specific time on the clock or time during the game, then that individual works better because you can then match up the timestamps to make sure that they are what you're after.
Yep. All right, moving on from that, we have a couple of things we can talk about. You can do on the fly through ClickFX. So one thing I wanted to talk about is adding a media button. I think Andrew kind of brushed on this, is just adding buttons in general, but we can add buttons quickly. Right-clicking, you can import a file here. Let's see, we're already in the ribbon files, yeah. So we'll just select the Coca-Cola image that we were using, and that's as easy as that. One thing I wanted to also mention is if you can tell, some of these have legible icons, some of them do not. That's a pretty quick fix. We can hit Edit in Editor. Once we're here, we also have this. This is basically a thumbnail preview. So we can click on this, and it'll bring up a bounding box. We're able to sort of pick anywhere in this that we want. So we can actually scroll this over. We can click this again, and then we can shorten the bounding box to just say Coke. And then we have that. We hit save. And now the thumbnail is saved like that. It makes it a little bit easier to select things at a glance versus trying to read these cramped images. So yeah, after we make buttons, if you wanted to add them to a playlist, it's also fairly easy. Andrew, if you want to take that over.
Yeah, sure. I think the idea here is that if you're handed something, oh, that's the wrong graphic. I need to change that out, right? It's really quick just to be able to go into your playlist, right click, pull that one out, pull the new Coke one in, save, close, and now you're back to running that playlist again. The other thing you can do is with organizer mode, you can copy and paste buttons. So I can right click and copy, or I can just use the control button and click and drag. And now I've got a copy of that playlist. So I can leave the primary one running. I can edit the secondary one, go through and make my changes, save it, and then I can just flip over to the new one. And now I'm using my new one that I've edited, right? So you can do that with graphics that are in play. If I'm in game and I've got all of my game look stuff running, and I see that, oh, there's a problem, you know, with my with the main scoreboard, right? I'm just going to go to organizer mode. I can very quickly pull this up to the top, let it copy the button for me, and then I can go through and edit this one and then put that into program when it's fixed and take the one that's incorrect, take that one out. So there is things you can do on the fly. Also, I can look at this and say, here's my birthday button, but the director said it's too small, right? So I'm playing stuff. Hey, I need birthday up there in a minute, and it's too small. So right click, edit in editor, quickly highlight things. I've got my character. Let's bump this up to a larger size, hit enter, save it, and close. So the ease of kind of functionality of some of these things allow the user to kind of get in and make those last minute changes. Obviously, we wouldn't want to do that in a normal basis. We'd rather have everything prepared, but you got to roll with the punches during a show when things change, and be able to manage that and to roll with it and get things done. So there's a lot of functionality in here that makes it very simple for users to be quick with editing changes as needed, but also let's just make it easy for them to use. And I think that's our primary goal here, is just as easy as possible, no stress for the user. They know where things are laid out. It's very intuitive just to how to get to different pages. I think one thing we didn't mention earlier, is, as much as we talked about organizing, is I can just click and drag things to another page. So if I pull all these over to the headshots page, then it's as easy as just click and drag, and now those buttons are on the headshot page, and I can move them wherever I want them. So in addition to copy pasting, I can just do things as simple as moving around and making this easier for the user to use. And I think that was a really good thing that like Logan showed, was the thumbnail. That's one thing we hadn't discussed. It's a heck of a lot easier to determine what this thumbnail is if I go down and set it up as that's the Coke here with the Simplified thumbnail.